What is up, everyone? Moto Tigers here, and I think it is time that we do a proper walk around of the brand new Tiger 900 GT Pro. This is powered by an 888cc inline 3. Triumph actually moved the crank pin orientation on this engine around from its previous version, and we now have the pins at a 0, 90, and 180 degree orientation where they used to be 120 around the clock, and that combined with the 132 firing order, the so-called T-plane crank configuration, gives this Tiger a totally different feel from its predecessor. And I have to say, I really like the character of the engine on this bike. You'll note that we actually have cast wheels, as this is the GT Pro, so no spoked wheels here like you see on the Rally. That's your first indication that this is a road focused bike. You'll also notice that we've got the nice Brembo brakes on this bike. So we've got a 17-inch in the rear and a 19-inch in the front. Now we could do a little bit of gravel, a little bit off-road, but if you're looking for an actual off-road bike, you're really looking at the Rally Pro. For the suspension, we've got Marzocchi upside down forks in the front and Marzocchi in the back. So the front is going to be manually adjustable, but the rear shock is actually electronically adjustable. This is a pretty cool function because you can actually get the perfect preload based on whether or not you're carrying a bunch of luggage or a passenger and luggage. It's great. And this bike also comes with a center stand, which has been really, really fun. I am such a big fan of the center stand already. We also have LED lights all the way around the bike, so that's going to be the front here and our rear brake and turn signals as well. Also to note, on the Tiger we have a split radiator design up front, which is really interesting. We've got our adjustable windscreen. This is kind of neat. I've been running it in the full up position, but it's super easy if you want to drop it down. Now the dry weight on this bike is about 436 pounds. You can add about 32 or 33 to that for the roughly almost 5.5 gallon fuel tank. For fuel economy, I've been doing about 45 to 55 depending on whether or not I'm riding super sporty or I'm stuck in traffic. Now this bike has a roughly 32-inch high seat, which I find to be really approachable. I'm 5'9" and I've got about a 30-inch inseam. The seat does have a high and a low position, and I currently have my seat running in the low position, and I can just almost flat foot this thing. The standover is also really narrow on this bike, which is part of what makes it so approachable. Also nice to note, both of the seats are heated. So if we walk around on this side of the bike, you'll actually see this is going to be your heat control for your passenger, and for your rider up front, it's going to be controlled on the bars. Speaking of the bars, you'll notice it's absolutely chock full of switches, and you can control just about anything on that beautiful 7-inch TFT with these switches. Fun note is they're also backlit. So that was kind of exciting the first time I took it out at night, and I really noticed, oh man, look, all my switches are lit up. Now, because this bike is a GT Pro, we also have the Triumph connectivity, so you can download the app, put in your GPS information in there, and you can get your turn-by-turn directions on your display, which is kind of neat. It doesn't show you the actual map view, it's only going to show you the turn-by-turn, so that's not ideal. I'm hoping maybe there's a software update in the future that might give us a little more capability there, but it's still kind of a nice feature. This bike also has an IMU, so we get all of the fancy cornering and ABS capabilities, which are tailored to each of the 5 riding modes. The bike also has shift assist, which has been really fun to play with. Shifting without the clutch. I'm still trying to break the muscle memory so that I could actually do that, but it's kind of a fun feature. Probably one of my favorite features on this bike is the cruise control. I can't get over how nice it is to be able to take your hand off of the throttle and shake it out every once in a while. Now you guys will notice that I have a wrench icon on here. That's because when I got my bike home and I started exploring it, I disconnected the battery, which apparently set off a maintenance interval alarm, and I either need to go buy an OBS machine that I can connect at home or get it to a dealer to have it reset. So when I hit my 600-mile service, I'm probably just going to go ahead and take it in and they'll clear that then. So here you can see in this menu variant, we're going to use our 4-way switch to scroll up and down to look at our various activities on the TFT. If we want to change the style, this is where we're going to run to do it. Style 4 tends to be my favorite. This is where you can actually see the entire left side of your screen is dedicated to all of the functionality that you're scrolling through. Either your music, your GoPro, your GPS directions will come up here, and so on and so forth. This is also where you can control your damping. Here's what your preload menu is going to look like, so you can select one of those, which is a really neat feature. Your trip, your fuel status, service intervals, which of course mine are a little messed up right now because I was playing around with the bike. Your contrast levels, I have found it does a really good job on auto. Some other bikes tend to be a little wonky with how they change the high or low contrast as you're moving under underpasses or tunnels or doing other things where the lighting is changing. So far I have found this one to be pretty good. Now if we want to look at some of the rider modes, we're going to use our home button. From here, you'll see that riding modes are the first thing that comes up on your menu, so we'll select that by pressing in on our 4-way switch. And now we have our rider, rain, road, sport, and off-road modes. So the rider mode is going to be the one that you set up to your preferences if you have settings that are different than the standard settings on these other modes. I tend to run around in the road mode so far. I haven't yet started to explore the sport mode, but I'm very excited to do that probably tomorrow. And I have had experience in the rain mode. The first demo that I did was actually in rain mode, and I almost thought the bike was too boring because my first impression of it was in the rain mode. But let me go ahead and clarify now, this bike is in no way boring. It is a ton of fun. So your bike setup is going to be another place that you can play around with some settings on your bike, as well as your trip and display setups. Bluetooth is how you're going to connect to your phone. It was really easy to sync my iPhone to this bike, had no issues there. And of course you can reset your bike to defaults if you get everything messed up and you panic. Of course, everybody likes to hear a bike start, so we'll go ahead and do that now. So to start the bike is going to be pretty standard. I have it in neutral. I'm going to go ahead and bring the kickstand up, clutch in, and you see we have a 3-way switch over here. We have our emergency kill, our ready to start, and our start. All right, and here we go. And that's how a happy tiger sounds. Now, one of the things that people like to gripe about on the TFT is actually the RPM gauge here. It's a little strange. In each one of these formats, they have some version of what you see here, which is this kind of strange graphical illustration with your small numbers for the RPM going up. The main complaint here is that it's not super legible. I agree it's not the best interface that I've seen, but I don't see it as being really problematic when you're riding, unless you're the kind of rider that is constantly staring at their RPM. We're cubbing it up today, look at that. So yeah, maybe a software update in the future will fix that issue for people. As far as additions to the bike, you'll see that I have the Outback Motor Tech crash bars on it. I think these were a really good upgrade. They were not the easiest thing in the world to install. It probably took me about 3 hours, and I had a helping hand to do it. They developed this kit on the Rally Pro, so the instructions don't tell you that there's actually a couple more things you have to disassemble on the GT Pro. But don't fret, they still fit great on this bike. They look great on this bike. I'll give you the pro tip now. What you'll have to do is remove this portion of your foot peg assembly and just swing it out of the way, and you'll be able to install that no problem. I also have the Nelson Rig commuter sized bag. This is a really cool little bag. It kind of fits perfectly on the seat here, and you can expand it so it can fit a helmet. I've already run down to the grocery store, tested out the capacity. Kind of a life changer for me because I'm not used to having a nice tail bag on my bikes. So yeah, I think that was a pretty good purchase. That's going to be my Walkaround town bag. My Moscow Reckless 80 liter will go on here when we're taking a long road trip and I have real luggage. So I think that's about it for the new Tiger. So I'll let you guys leave some comments. Let me know what you think. If you have any particulars that you'd like to know about this bike, go ahead and leave a comment and we'll have a discussion about it. And if you have any mod recommendations, I'd love to hear that too. I probably will end up putting bark busters on this bike. Haven't decided yet, but I figure I will probably say that now because I'm sure I'll see it in the comments. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick look at the new Tiger. I would highly recommend getting your hands on this bike if you get a chance. And I think that wraps it up. Until next time, ride safe.